There we go. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. Today is Monday, June 14th. It is 6:03 p.m. and this is CB11's Health and Human Services Committee meeting. My name is Nye Whitaker and I'm the chair of the meeting. We're calling the meeting to order at 6:04. Looks like it's changed a moment already. Tonight we are joined as always by our wonderful community associate, Marlene Pierre, the staff liaison for our committee, and I'm going to share some ground rules for tonight's meeting. In order to conduct an efficient meeting, we ask that no one may speak until granted the floor by the chair and or our community associate, Marlene Pierre. CB11 members, if you have a question about board business or wish to make a motion, please raise your hand using the Zoom raised hand function. If you click the participants icon in the participants panel, it should appear and you should be able to find the raised hand function there. If you are still having technical difficulty, you may click the chat icon and relay the difficulty to the staff. Marlene or myself will then assist you. The chat function should otherwise not be used for any CB11 business or questions about the agenda and its topics. All such remarks should be made on the record by raising your hand through the Zoom function. The chat, however, can be used for sharing information. So if speakers who would like to leave their email, phone number, websites for their organizations or information about upcoming events or activities pertinent to their presentations are welcome to drop that information in the chat to help us to stay on time for this meeting. When a member is given the floor to speak, I will identify them and then you can unmute yourself so that you can speak. Please keep your questions and comments succinct and germane to the discussion. Members of the public, if you have a question or comment about the subjects on the agenda, please again use your raise hand function through Zoom and wait to be recognized by the chair or our community associate. Marlene, I just wanted to double check because I'm seeing your notes to me. Should we take attendance now by roll?
Yeah, you can call the meeting to order. Just you said 6:03 when you started.
Yeah, I think it's technically was 6:04 by the time I read the ground rules.
All right.
Okay, so we're going to call the meeting to order. Just want to make sure there are no objections for us to move forward to do so. And if not, I am going to ask Marlene to take our first roll call.
Sure. Thank you, Nye. Eva Chan.
Present.
Thank you. Wendy Ferreira. Osendi Garcia. Osendi Garcia. Patricia Martin.
Present.
Thank you. Jennifer Meyer.
Here.
Thank you. Arturo Perez.
Present.
Xavier Santiago.
Present.
Thank you. Isaac Scott. Robin Strachan.
Present.
And Nye Whitaker.
Present.
You have a quorum, Nye.
Great. Thank you. So we're going to move on to the adoption of the agenda. The agenda of tonight's meeting was distributed ahead of time by the board office and was posted online. It's my understanding we no longer have to take a complete vote on this, but can do so by verbal vote. Are there any objections to us moving forward to adopting the agenda?
Robin has her hand up.
So Robin, I'm doing this kind of in reverse and asking if there's any objections as opposed to making a motion to help us move forward. So thank you for jumping in. I so appreciate you, but I'm going to ask if there are any objections to us adopting the agenda. I don't see any hands raised. So I'm going to go ahead and move forward. I am going to take the hit on the knee that I have the minutes, but just got back to my desk from helping seniors at our residence that opened up, our senior centers that opened back up today to go vote early. So I've just walked in, so please forgive me, everyone, for not having those ready. I mean, they are ready, but not having forwarded the email. I can't email while I'm on the Zoom. So as soon as it's over, I will get those to the office and make sure that they're added for future notice. And if you have not voted early, I'm going to use this as a shameless plug to ask everyone to please go vote early. And if there's a senior that you know in our community that needs assistance, to please assist them in doing so. So I'm going to move on to announcements and open the floor. In the interest of time, each section of the agenda has been dedicated a set time allotment. So I want to make sure that we keep to that and hopefully can end a little bit earlier tonight. So as the screen says, I'm going to take chair's privilege, which our first announcement, as I mentioned, senior centers reopened today. We had invited guests from the Stanley Isaac Center to come and present and talk about that process, as well as to present about some of the issues members of our community have had, members of our AAPI, so Asian American Pacific Islander community that live across our district, and what they were doing to help provide assistance to those members. The staff member was unable to join us at the last minute, and we've asked them to just please email us some details. There's some upcoming self-defense classes and other advocacy courses that they are hosting via Zoom that I think would be helpful for our community to be aware of. Once we receive that information, Marlene and I will make sure that it gets disseminated. But I also just want to remind everybody that today is the first day that the senior centers in our communities were allowed to reopen. I actually visited Union Settlement today. They were waiting for a food delivery that was delayed. And so I really just want to make sure that we are, standing up to provide our assistance to our seniors in our community who have been waiting a very long time to rejoin everyone physically and in person, and participate in the reopening of our city and our community. And so whatever you can do in whatever way to help that. And for those here who work in the senior service industry, I thank you all for everything you've been doing to communicate and keep them engaged online. And I look forward to hearing from you as your centers fully reopen. I'm going to go ahead to the next item. So I believe that Brother Padmore John is here from the New York City Department of Health and Mental Hygiene, also is one of the assistant commissioners for health equity and runs our local East Harlem Health Action Center. Brother Padmore, are you here to give us an update?
Yes, I am. Good afternoon and evening, everyone. Thank you, Nai. I appreciate it. Hope all is well. Is it possible for me to share the screen, Nai?
Yes.
Yes, Marlene will give you access.
Okay. Let's do this real quick. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
All right, great. So just wanted to go over briefly some of the stuff that's happening. Wanted to kind of give an idea of where things are in terms of cases, vaccination rates, as well as to just speak briefly about what's happening at the Action Center. So as you can see, we are doing relatively well in terms of cases. Our cases are very low for the city in general, for the 10029 specifically. We see the up and down that occurred in the first and the second wave of COVID. We are pretty much, hopefully won't be going back to a third wave. And part of that is because, the number of individuals who have been vaccinated who are continuing to practice what we call the core 4, just the preventive measures of wearing masks, washing hands, staying home if sick, and just taking care of self, as well as being often tested. So it's good to see that these cases are so low, and part of that is cases, a high number of cases indicate a high number of hospitalizations, which indicate a high number of deaths. So when we have very low number of cases, we can just make the assumption that there is a low number of individuals who are hospitalized because of COVID, and even lower number of individuals who are passing away. So we want to continue this trend and keep it as low as possible. The vaccination rates are a different matter. We see from the map, and we can zone in a little bit more specifically on 10029 and 35 shortly. But in terms of where we are across the city and by the number of individuals who are getting vaccinated, we still see that there's a gap between African Americans and the Latinx communities in comparison to some of the other more communities who are getting very high percentage rates. So in terms of that first dose and the fully vaccinated, so we are continuing to encourage individuals for protection, for the easiest and safest way to protect themselves and their family to continue to get vaccinated. As we know, as you know, there has been a substantial drop off in the number of individuals who are getting vaccinated on a regular basis. But we are still wanting to let individuals know that there are still places across the city. Many of these are community-based organizations that are housing vaccination sites inside in their buildings. And so we just want to make sure that these are continuing to be utilized. One of the key things that's also happening is the use of the vaccine bus. And these are going to a variety of locations. Nowadays, the vaccine bus is also accommodating the Pfizer vaccine. And these have been going out to various locations to encourage vaccination for those who are 12 and older. So it's something that we want to continue to let you know that is going to be done across the city, across Harlem. Any activities, street fairs, resource fairs that are upcoming, there's an opportunity for you to potentially have a vaccine bus there, as well as testing, as well as mask and sanitized distribution and literature. So please, as you are developing summer plans and working with community-based organizations that are securing street permits to conduct events and activities during the summer months, we will be happy to to come and provide information, to provide masks and other PPE, as well to see at certain times if there's an opportunity to be supportive of having a bus there. So just some of the things that we are doing very specifically in support of the vaccination effort. So this is where our current percent positivity rate is for Manhattan, which is at 0.35%, which is excellent, very low. The citywide percentage is 0.69%. You will see that in certain areas, there's a little bit a higher red area, and we can dive into that a little bit where it's a little bit higher. So it's definitely not something we think that just, put in the back of our head that we have beaten. We still have to remain vigilant to ensure that there's no third wave. We still have to continue to be supportive of the community to ensure that they are fully aware that this is something that could come back, and to ensure that they have access to PPE. So we want to make sure that this is something that we're continuing to do. So of course, as many of you know, we are now offering the vaccine to those 12 and older. In this case is the Pfizer vaccine. Youth between the ages of 12 and 17, they can come with a guardian or a parent. Those that are over the age of 15 can actually come with a letter or a parent on the phone to give them access to getting the vaccine. But we want to make sure that it's a seamless and easy process as possible. If the youth have some sort of identification card, especially if they're in school, they can definitely bring it. If they don't, it's fine. But we want to make sure that any barriers are removed to ensure that folks and the youth can get vaccination as well. Still want to make the plug for the 877 VAX for NYC number 877-829-4692. This is the number to call if you have anyone who is homebound and is unable to come to a vaccination site. Before that was exclusively made for individuals 75 and older. However, if someone has some sort of other debilitating illness that prevents them from walking or being mobile, you can facilitate individuals being supported, coming to their home and being vaccinated by calling this number. I just want to also point out that the vaccine finder.nyc.gov, you have the ability to filter by vaccine. So now if you're looking specifically for a particular vaccine, for Pfizer, if you have a youth who you're going with, you can do so to find out the locations of sites that are providing the Pfizer vaccine. Or if you want one of the other ones, so Johnson & Johnson for the one shot, you can also filter that by that, and you get very specifically a location that is nearest to you. So this is where we are at the moment in terms of the number of individuals who are, that have been fully vaccinated, as well as the total doses that have been administered. And why this is really important is to show that how widespread dose administration is, how widespread fully vaccinated individuals are, and the minimum number of individuals who are having any significant death or any other issues with once they have taken the vaccine. So I think it's important that we keep these numbers in mind. Obviously, there are going to be some individuals who have a bad reaction, who are allergic to some extent, and that will come out. But I just want us to kind of see the vast number of individuals, the vast number of doses that have been administered, and the relatively small percentages of individuals who have had a negative interaction with the vaccine. Here is some of the data for Manhattan, specifically in terms of those who have been fully vaccinated, 64% of individuals. And I want to actually just dive into, just give me a second. I want to show some of the latest data from specifically for the 10029 zip code. Can everyone see the screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so as you'll see in 10029, 50% of the population have had at least one dose, while 44% is fully vaccinated. And for 10035, it's 51%, and another 44% that's fully vaccinated. But we just want to, in comparison to some other spaces for the Upper East Side, almost 71% is have at least one vaccinated, 65% is fully vaccinated. We can look at the Central Harm location, 47% one dose, 42% fully vaccinated. Across the park to Morningside Heights, the Upper West Side, 67% with one dose, 61% fully vaccinated. So there's still work that we have to do in 10029 and 35. To continue to get the word out, to continue to let folks know where are some of the locations that they can go to get the vaccine. Right now, there's a big push, especially to try and get more FQHCs, Institute for Family Health, Borican. These are all partners, Metropolitan Hospital. These are all partners who are conducting vaccination. I believe Metropolitan definitely has a Pfizer. I think IFH has Pfizer as well. So they're able to offer not only for adults, but also for the younger generation as well, in terms of being protected. Definitely want to make sure that recognizing right now that it's a much more harder push to try and get individuals to be aware of the benefits. I think right now a lot of hesitancy is coming in, but that hesitancy is around the vaccine in specifically, but also the medical system generally. And so we are trying as much as possible to allay fears, to address some of the concerns, to address some of the myths that are out there, and specifically to be able to ensure that individuals have all the information to make a decision, an informed decision for what they would like to do. I'm gonna stop here at the moment and I'll take any questions. And thank you so much for allowing me the chance to speak to you all.
Thank you always for those informative presentations. Lorraine can't be with us tonight, and because Stanley Isaacs also was unavailable, I wanted to make sure I allowed a little bit more time for Padmore to speak to us as we reopen. We know that people are very excited and some of the protocols have been softened, but I want to make sure that everyone is still staying diligent and cautious, because as you see, for our communities, 10029, 35, and some of the neighboring areas, we still have a lot of work to do. First, I see that Noel has his hand raised, but before Noel speaks, I just want to double check and see if there are any questions related to Padmore's presentation. First from the board, the members of the committee. I don't see any, and now I'm going to ask for any hands raised from the general public. Marlene, if there's anything you see that I don't, please let me know.
I see Beverly Pabon has her hand raised.
Great. Beverly, if you can unmute, the floor is yours.
Good evening, everyone. Am I heard?
Yes, we
Yes,
can hear
yes.
you. Do you have a question about this presentation?
Yes, I do.
Right.
I would like to ask Mr. Moore, I had 3 questions, but my main question is regarding the youth. Are they able to get the vaccination without parents' consent?
No, the intent is not to have the youth come in and get it without parental consent, parental or guardian consent. Everyone, so preferably the parent should be going to the vaccination site with the youth who is intending to get that. What we have, the decision has been made is that in case a parent is unable to accompany directly, they could send a letter, or they could be on the phone with that with the vaccination site once the individual is getting that. But there should be some type of consent being given by the parent, whether it's in person, by a letter, or over the phone.
And would the letter be notarized? Because so I know kids used to forge their parents' signature on report cards. So just thinking about.
Well, I don't think we have actually insisted it being notarized, but we definitely would want to have some sort of indication from the letter indicating that this was the parent. So if the parent will also include a phone number, for example, and we just, I'm reaching back and making sure that is the case. But we definitely would want to make sure that it is truly the parent.
And my last question is regarding is there a breakdown of the number of children per race or ethnicity that's getting the shot between the ages of 12 and 16? Do you have any type of breakdown of that?
We don't have that data as yet.
Okay.
That data is being collected, and hopefully within the next week or 2 or so, we'll be able to have that data up on the website, as well as being able to be presented to the public. But at this point in time, we don't have it yet.
Well, thank you for the presentation.
You're welcome. Thank you for your questions.
Thank you. I am going to, if there's no other questions, I'm going to turn it over to Noel. Noel, I always call on you following our COVID update, because I know your site is also a key partner in this initiative. So Noel, if you don't mind unmuting, I'd love to give you the floor for a few moments. Is Noel still with us?
I'm here. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Hello, my brother. How are you?
Thanks for having us. Just a few things I want to follow up on what Padmore was saying. I'm from Noel Alisea from Metropolitan Hospital. As he mentioned, we do offer Pfizer for anyone 12 years and older. And as he also mentioned, we do ask for parental consent, ideally in person, but the other forms that he mentioned are also acceptable. We just started today offering Johnson & Johnson in our ambulatory care outpatient clinics. That's available to patients, staff, and community members without an appointment. So patients who are there for their regular visits will be offered vaccine. It's the Johnson & Johnson is the 1 dose, so they don't have to come back. But it's also available to anyone who wants to walk in and get a one-time vaccine. That's being offered, like I said, in our outpatient adult medicine clinic, which is Monday through Friday from 9 to 3. Our vaccine center is on a different floor, and that's where primarily Pfizer is being offered. Also, no appointment necessary. In both cases, there is a registration process, but there's no charge to the patient for the vaccine. I should also mention that we have reduced our testing hours by 1 day. We're no longer open on Sundays, but we continue to be open. Monday located on 97th Street, just off of 2nd Avenue. And that's from 8 a.m. to 4, also without appointment. What else? Those are the main things. So our farmers market's coming back. We're doing a food distribution on Thursday, food distribution boxes for patients and community members. I can send the flyer to anyone who's interested. I did share it with folks at the community board. I'll put my email address in the chat in case anyone wants to reach out to me directly. And that's going to be on Thursday from 10 to 2 p.m. outside of the hospital on 2nd Avenue. And on Friday, the farmers market will be there every Friday until November.
Wonderful,
Those are the
thank you.
updates for now. Thank you.
I heard about the food distribution when I was at Union Settlement this morning, so was very excited about that. Arturo, I feel like we have another great health institution here. I just didn't know if there was anything you wanted to quickly add very briefly on behalf of Borinquen, because I don't want to leave anyone out.
I can say a few words. We also offer the Pfizer and as well as the Moderna. We offer the vaccine by appointment, but we're also starting to offer it for same-day appointments, and we do it in Taino Towers Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And Friday and on Saturday we do it at Borinquen. So, but like was mentioned before, for children, it does require parental consent. Okay.
So that's 3 wonderful sites in our immediate area, the East Harlem Health Action Center, Metropolitan, Borinquen, as well as other pop-ups. I saw that there was an amazing Youth Get Vax effort with mobile trucks with free tacos and free empanadas and t-shirts and live music and all sorts of fun in Marcus Garvey Park last weekend. And I volunteered to help Padmore and Lorraine. It was a lot of fun. And so looking forward to making sure that we bring the vaccine to the people and also that people continue to get tested, especially as people are attending family gatherings, kids are back in school, and more of us are coming into contact with the general public. We just need to make sure that we all stay safe, keep our numbers low in terms of positivity rates, but also then increase our numbers regarding vaccinations across our district. So I don't see any other questions. I'm sorry.
Can I just say one more thing, Nai?
Yeah, sure.
One of the big things that we're looking to do, and we can definitely will be reaching out to the community board to accomplish this, is to target the Caribbean American community. That's one of the communities that we have identified as one of the lowest uptake of vaccination rates. So we definitely want to make sure, and we know that we cannot just paint the Caribbean community with just one wide brush. There are a lot of difference in languages that are being spoken in the Caribbean, and then there are also the cultural and sensitivities that are there recognizing that you can't just speak the same way to individuals from the Dominican Republic as Puerto Rico, from and different islands and such. So we will be an ongoing effort that will be done through the Department of Health. We will be reaching out up to the community board as well, community-based organizations, so that there is a concerted strategic way of engaging with these individuals, engaging with these populations. Some of that would be attending various activities that are being put on for these groups. Some of that would be continuing to do webinars that are very specifically identified for these groups. But we want to just make sure that we are in constant communication with the community board as a partner in this endeavor. And as we get more information on some of the different ways we are moving, we'll definitely be touching base with you as well as the Chair Nilsa.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And thank you for continued partnership. I know you guys are super busy. And so I just want to let you know how much we appreciate and value you guys making time each month to come and give us this update and help us stay safe. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm going to thank you. I'll see you out in the field, Brother Padmore.
Will do.
So I'm going to go ahead and move forward. As I mentioned, the Stanley Isaac presentation will not be happening, but we will share information. So next up on the agenda, we have 5 minutes for a status update on Victory Beyond Sims. And I believe Marina is going to present. Is that correct, Marlene? Marina?
Yeah.
I was just wondering if Marina was here and able
She's
to.
in the attendee section.
Okay.
Yeah, but no one confirmed who was going to present, but sure, she can.
Okay,
present.
I see her hand raised. So Marina, are you able to give a quick 5-minute update if you want to unmute?
She's unmuted.
Yeah, okay, thank you for unmuting me. And thank you for inviting me to speak. So I don't know how familiar the committee is with what's going on with the replacement for the J. Marion Sims statute, but we've sort of been on a standstill for over a year, and we would like to invite members of the committee to tune in on Wednesday. We are having an update and conversation with the selected artist, Vinnie Bagwell, and Harriet Washington, the author of Medical Apartheid. We've sent out email invitations, but if anyone needs that information, I will put it in the chat. But we are asking the community board especially to support our call to move forward. Part of the delay has not been just the COVID situation in the last year. It's just the usual bureaucracy. So we're asking the community board to help us to push this forward. And as you may know, the chair, Nilsa Orama, was very vocal during the artist selection process and pushing for this to make it a reality. And Vinnie Bagwell is the selected artist, and I will put a link into information. I did appear at the Economic Development Committee and gave them language for a proposed resolution. So they should have that information. I wasn't prepared to present that to you today, but I can also put that in the chat. We're asking Community Board 11 to support us via a resolution to urge the city to move forward on a replacement for the Sims statute. I don't know, and I don't know if I have to reiterate who J. Marion Sims was to the committee, but he was a white Southern doctor who experimented on Black women and their infants without anesthesia and without consent, because these were enslaved human beings. And his statue has graced Fifth Avenue since 1934. And over the last 10 years, East Harlem Preservation has been involved in a community-wide coalition to get that statue removed. And that included support from Councilwoman Inez Barron, Helen Rosenthal, Melissa Margarito, and also Community Board 11, right? So here we are. The statue was finally removed in 2018. We're 3 years later and we're still without a replacement. So it's very frustrating for our children, for our families to understand what's going on, why there is this change, and to promote the educational component of our campaign, which is not just a replacement statue that signifies that exemplifies Black excellence and Black resilience. But we also want our children to understand what's going on. So there was supposed to be an educational component that the city had, I thought, committed to. So we're asking Community Board 11 to renew their support for this, for the replacement to move forward as timely as possible, and for that investment in community education to be included as part of not the budget, because the budget is separate, but to be included as a city commitment.
Great, thank you. I also sit on the Economic Development, Cultural and Tourism Committee. And yes, we had a great presentation by Marina last month. And I know that there is work in progress on a resolution of support. And so when that language and resolution is drafted, I believe this week, we should be hearing from it in EcoDev or at the larger community board. And so I just wanted to make sure that members of Health and Human Services Committee were aware of this and were invited to this event. Marina, can you just say one more time what day the event is, day, time, location?
Oh, sure. It's this coming Wednesday. Sorry, let me get the information for you. It's actually being sponsored by the New York Academy of Medicine. It's a virtual, obviously, forum. I will send the information via link here. I had already done that. I'm not sure. It's sent by email. I don't know if I send it to the other committee, but I'll send it to you in the chat.
Great.
So it's a virtual meeting Wednesday evening.
Great. So I'm sorry.
I just put a link in the chat.
Thank you, Padmore. So I just wanted to make sure that everyone knows the New York Academy of Medicine is a fixture on Fifth Avenue, but is part of our CB11 community. And this was something that CB11 has worked on in partnership with Marina and many other community leaders to make sure that the previous statue was removed, that our artist was selected and a new replacement was implemented. And as she mentioned, it's been several years, and yet in that time frame, other statues have been approved and implemented in other parts of the city. And so it's really about time that we band together to urge the city to take action and to deliver what was previously promised. So thank you, Marina, always for your work on behalf of our community. Thank you, Brother Padmore, for bringing this event to our attention. Everyone, we will reshare that information, but if you are available to join on Zoom, I was at the museum previously for the presentation of the different artists and the selection of different artists. It's been a very long process, and it's about time that we bring it to reality and to fruition and are able to educate people about health equity, especially in this post-COVID, or should I say in this time of COVID, when equity has been a constant conversation on a daily basis.
Thank you so much, Nye. Thank you so much for your continued support. You've been with us since day one. I just wanted to clarify. So you already have the language that I submitted to the Economic Development Committee, and hopefully a board-wide resolution may come to fruition this month. Is that what you're saying or hoping for?
I'm not aware of the calendars yet, excuse me, the agendas yet for the meetings this week. But today we have Health and Human Services, we have full board, we have EcoDev and executive, I feel like all this week or some form of that. So I just wanted to say that everyone should look out for the next iteration of this. It was first discussed last month. And so everyone should be looking out this month for where we are in that process. But I do not, foresee an issue with support. I think that everyone is looking forward to moving this forward. And so thank you for inviting us and sharing this update.
Now, just really quickly though, so do you need me to forward the draft resolution language in the chat here tonight?
No, you do not. When it goes through EcoDev, which is where you brought it to first, EcoDev will share it with us and we'll share it out with everybody.
May I ask this particular committee to consider adopting that resolution, just in case whatever, there may be wires crossed?
We
I
will
really-
definitely take it up for consideration, Marina. I just have two people who have their hands raised. If you don't mind me
Sure.
calling on them to add to the conversation, I would appreciate it.
Thank you.
Great. First, I'm going to recognize Jewel Jones, and then I'll recognize our amazing co-chair of CB11, Xavier. So Jewel, the floor is yours. Jewel, do you still have a question? Your hand was raised.
Yes, I did not have the function to speak and I was just provided the function. I appreciate that.
Awesome. Thank you, my sister.
Thank you. So Marina, thank you so much. Thank you, committee. As a former board member, well aware of the Marion Sims statue and the efforts to get rid of the statue and move forward with the new artists. Marina, if I could ask Marina, what are the specific roadblocks that you're having in terms of moving this forward? I think at the Economic Development Committee, you mentioned something about budget or that, but can you please tell me the specifics about the roadblocks that you're having?
Sure. Well, actually, if you join us in that conversation
Yes.
on Wednesday, we may get
I
some
will be there.
answers. But I can say that there has been some clarification made in terms of budgeting, that the outline that was presented by the city during the announcement did indicate that a certain percentage would be set aside for, logistical, administrative issues, etc. So there was just some apparently miscommunication. But as far as the delay, we have no explanation. We have never gotten an explanation. Not even to say that it's because of COVID. We're just assuming because, but so the artists, the committee, we're all prepared to move forward and really would like to see this installation completed by the end of the year. So part of the issue is, so as you know, artists don't work on just like that. They need a contract, and all this stuff. So
it's logistics and bureaucracy, it sounds like.
yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
So I'm going to ask Marina, I know after the event, if you don't mind coming back to us next month and giving us, or excuse me, the next time we meet, because I know we're going to go on hiatus. So we'll look forward to inviting you back in the fall, if that's okay with you, and giving us an update on where we are and what moves forward.
Sure, absolutely. And hopefully we'll have good news for everyone in our community. Thank you.
From your lips to God's ears, my sister. I'm going to call on Xavier. Xavier, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Marina, very much for the update. It's a pleasure working with everyone on that committee, and I value all of you and the work. One thing I would say is definitely EcoDev is the appropriate committee. I think we have been supportive of this since the word go. And there was a commitment from de Blasio's office that he would fund, and he wanted to see it completed before the end of his term, but that funds would be appropriated. So I think, if anything, we would be affirming our position and calling for that delivered. But I think EcoDev is definitely where that goes. And if there's anything that I can help with greasing the gears and whatnot, I'm more than pleased to do it. We are having our full board tomorrow. However, we are having executive committee later. And we are, because of COVID, our schedule is not the normal state. So we're having more meetings, and bearing in mind that executive also functions on behalf of full board to be ratified later. And I think reaffirming a position and calling it a call for action is not outside of our purview. So we just had to go through that process. We have to go through that process and the vetting, and we try to keep things. And I appreciate you being patient, but you have allies here, I would say. So,
and just in closing though, executive decisions have helped to turn this country around. And so we should do that locally. Thank you so much for your support.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Keep us posted. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Xavier. Thank you, everyone. I'm definitely interested in seeing what happens next with this and what we can do to move it forward. And we'll join EcoDev in supporting that action. And so I'm going to move forward to our final topic for tonight. It's a presentation and discussion, informational presentation. At the larger full board meeting, Jasmine introduced herself from the Cayuga Centers regarding their foster care and childcare programs. It is a topic that I have mentioned several times that has caused grave concern and alarm, but also interest in the community. And so I'm happy to have Jasmine here talk about the Cayuga Centers and the work that they are doing, and also the fact that they've recently expanded into several sites across our district in Central Harlem. So Jasmine, you have 10 minutes. I do want to say if you could allow time for questions within that 10 minutes. So I'll kind of check in with you about 7 minutes in. Do you need access to share your screen or unmute or anything?
I do. I just need access to share my screen.
Excellent. Thank you for accepting our invitation.
Thank you for inviting me. Good evening, everyone. Let me get all set up.
So I'm just going to set, while she gets ready, some ground. I don't know if everyone remembers, under the previous presidential administration, there was great alarm in East Harlem when a group of kids were delivered in the middle of the night from the border to a site over in the northern part of our district off of Park Avenue. I'm, because of privacy reasons, being a little vague in some of the details, but that site was a site that was owned by the Cayuga Centers. And I know that because of our press conferences and our outreach and actions, we were able to provide some support to the children that were there, and are looking for further updates regarding the services that they provide to children who find themselves in need of foster care due to immigration, parent separation, or other incidences or activities. And so we're interested to find out the status of the organization, what we can do to be of service, and where they are in the process of placing children.
Thank you.
Jasmine, the floor is yours.
Got it. Can you hear me? All is good? Hi, so I'm here. My name is Jasmine Lawrence. I'm here to present on behalf of Cayuga Centers and just an overview of our New York City programs, and specifically our foster care programs. I'd like to note that I've joined Cayuga Centers in December, and the media and community specialist role is new. I am the first person in this role, and due to the past experiences that the community had, Cayuga Centers really wanted to prioritize a role that was designated to building relationships with the community, since we had been here, but with the media, no one knew. And so I'm really excited to build some relationships here in East Harlem and in the offices that we have in New York City. With that said, I'll get started with 10 minutes. This is just a bit of an overview of what the presentation is going to look like. And so I'd like to start by introducing how Cayuga Centers started. We started in 1852. And our mission is to help children and families and individuals grow as independent and healthy, productive citizens. And that is through quality counseling, out-of-home care, and support services. We do this in partnership with government agencies. And so that is related to the federal government for our UC program, and for New York City ACS for our New York City program, as well as of other service providers. We were founded in Auburn, New York, which is central New York, however, have recently expanded since our founding. Who we serve foster youth, we serve intellectual and developmental disability communities, immigrant children, as well as local communities. So we serve about 32 counties in New York State. So upstate New York, we have a number of satellite offices, as well as New York City. We have an office in the South Bronx, in the Mount Haven area, as well as 3 offices in Harlem, one of which you're familiar with, 1916 Park Avenue, between 131st and Park. We also have offices in over 5 other cities: Delaware, Florida, Chicago, Los Angeles, Dallas, Fort Worth, and Baltimore. And I'll mention later on in this presentation, but we have a number of job openings. And that is one of the ways that I'm really targeting to get to the community because as we know, COVID-19, the pandemic has really hit our communities really hard. And so jobs are going to be the way that we get back on our feet as a community. So focusing on our foster care programs, we do have programs in Delaware, South Florida, but for the sake of this presentation, I'm going to focus on our foster care programs in New York City. So as I mentioned before, we have a program with ACS, and so our contract is with ACS, and we have two programs that are relevant to that. Our Family Foster Care Program, or FFC, as you'll hear people in the child welfare community speak, is an evidence-based foster care program, which a majority of our programs here at Cayuga Centers are. What evidence-based essentially means is that it has gone through some type of scientific rigor or trial to suggest that it will be beneficial to children. In that program, they are provided a safe home with a foster family as well as a case manager. We also have a treatment family foster care service, or TFFC, which is similar to family foster care, but it has a therapeutic component, and it's mainly geared toward children who have specialized needs or require additional behavioral support. So in addition to getting a foster family and a case manager, they're provided medical care, counseling, and additional educational services to provide them with additional support. So I mentioned a lot, and this is essentially how we get it done. I've given a very short overview of what our teams basically do. And so we have our case planning team that focuses on developing and managing permanency plans. And I'll get into essentially what permanency means. We have our therapy support team, which is where our clinicians and our licensed specialists work with team members to create individualized treatment plans for our ACS youth that are in the TFFC program. Behavioral support team also helps support in terms of education related to life skills and job seeking skills and the vocational futures of our youth. This department is especially relevant as we've seen a lot of statistics related to the additional support that foster youth need as they're becoming older and aging, coming closer to aging out of our programs. Home Finding manages our foster parents and deals with the recruitment. And our Fair Futures team, I definitely wanted to highlight this program as it is unique to New York City. The Fair Futures team is a coalition of child welfare agencies and advocates with the same belief that youth who are getting older and coming close to aging out of the foster care system require additional support. And so with the Fair Futures program, they're assigned a personal coach that helps them advising toward academic and career goals, helps them find access to affordable housing and additional resources in New York City and giving that personalized care. So very important. And our Case A team also supports the overall caseload of the youth in this program. I mentioned about permanency. So permanency is a very fancy term for our ultimate goal in our program. And it essentially means that we are committed to making sure that youth are transitioning into a safe and nurturing discharge resource. So that permanency can look like very different things case by case, but the ultimate goal is making sure that that permanency plan stabilizes the youth that we're working with. So that can mean returning back to their biological parents. It can mean adoption. It could be being placed into a home with a relative. It really ranges, but the idea is that we're giving them stability. So now I'll also talk about the services that are relevant to our unaccompanied migrant children, which is a program that some of you may be familiar with. And so we offer transitional foster care, long-term foster care. And as of April 1st, we're offering home study and post-release services. So those recent openings that we have nationwide in our offices in Dallas, Fort Worth, Baltimore, those are major hubs for UC Youth. And so the idea is that we would be providing home study services where we vet potential sponsors for any safety risk or red flags prior to a UC minor's placement in a home. Why that's important? Just the community of UC Youth in general, most times are arriving at our borders, fleeing unsafe conditions. And so it's really important that we vet their sponsors, vet who we're placing them with, and making sure that we're not placing them in unsafe environments. We also have a post-release services department that's opened as of April 1st as well. And what that is post-unification with a sponsor. In that program, if they're deemed eligible, we're able to provide community-based resources in the sponsor's community. Am I at my 7-minute mark?
You're actually at 8 minutes now.
So for just a little bit more clarity, I've used the language UC minors, unaccompanied children. Most people don't know what that means. And so the legal definition is just minors under the age of 18 who do not have lawful immigration status and do not have an immediately identified guardian available in the United States to provide care or physical custody. And so with that said, our foster care programs are designed to promote a continuous effort for unification with a minor's family in stateside. Our two programs are transitional foster care. And so transitional is think of it as a short-term program. Our average turnaround is about 38 days. And while youth are here, our programs are giving them a foster care home with a Spanish-speaking family, medical and clinical support, and also access to their consulate and legal assistance. And that is led by ORR. I want to give you an overview of the journey of a UC minor. There is a lot of misunderstanding related to our role and when we become involved in the path of a UC minor. And so I thought this would be very helpful. When a UC arrives at the border, they are interacting with Homeland Security. They are then, once deemed identified as a UC minor, are transferred to ORR. And then ORR has a network of care providers like Cayuga Centers, and then they are brought to our care. Once they're in our care, our teams are working around the clock to find their sponsors. And so this is an overview of the team that participates in the path of a UC minor while they're in our care.
I'm just checking in, Jasmine, how many more slides do you have?
I think I have 2 more that are most relevant before we get into questions. I do want to focus on this slide because this has come up in the executive board meeting. It was one of the questions. Youth do not live at any of the offices or facilities of Cayuga Centers in New York City. We've had a number of people ask, can we tour your facilities? And there are no youth there. They're just offices. I'm in the 1916 offices. But the idea that youth are living at the office is not true. Youth are placed with foster families. Cayuga Centers also does not provide congregate care for unaccompanied children. Our other program that we have relevant to UC Youth is our long-term foster care program. And so I get the question often of what happens if you don't find a sponsor? So our long-term foster care program is for UC Youth who have not been placed with a sponsor, or their sponsor that was identified was not considered viable. And so this is essentially their scale. And like I mentioned, in terms of long-term, they get very similar services to our transitional foster care, but obviously placed in a home longer while they await their immigration status. The average age of our programs is a bit older, and they're in their teenage years. While we do not report on the youth in our care due to to ensure their safety, I did want to give you an overview of our capacity for all our programs. And so this is essentially how much we can have at any given time. For our ACS TFC program, it's 90. For our family foster care, it's 45. For our UC transitional foster care program, Ms. Whitaker had mentioned that there has been an increase. It has been increased to 900. So we can have at most 900 beds. And what that means is that we have the capacity to have 900 beds to support UC youth.
Can we pause right there for a moment? Just again, I want to keep us on time, but also I know that that's the biggest question. And I feel like I wanted all this part of the presentation first, and then I wanted the other stuff, but I understand the flow of giving kind of a broader overview of the services that your organization provides. So in the time that we really have become very much more aware of your organization, there was the site on Park Avenue. There's now a site on like 119 and 3rd. There's another site on 116 Street towards the west. So kind of leaving CB11 and going into CB10. You're saying that those 3 sites are all office sites. There are no children at any of those sites. So where are when you say you have 900 beds, where are those 900 beds?
So those 900 beds, our home finding team recruits and manages the relationships of foster care. So I get the question of why are they in New York City? With the network of Spanish speaking communities that we have here, we have a network of Spanish speaking foster care parents. And so that's where the 900 beds are, their homes. And they range from the 5 boroughs as well as Yonkers.
So, but if a child comes, so say a child comes from the border and comes to East Harlem, from the time they leave the border and are somehow interfaced with Cayuga and they get to New York, by the time they get to New York, are they immediately going to a home, or are they in some sort of temporary care before they are placed, or kind of just what that process is? I know you had a slide, but if you could just talk us through, because we saw pictures of kids with masks coming off of a 55 person bus, like you would take if you were going on the Greyhound, coming to our neighborhood in the middle of the night. And it could be that the media misrepresented that. And so I just want to make sure that we're clear from you as a representative of Cayuga what that process is from border to here.
Got it. Yeah. So I think I'd like to go back to that side if that's okay with you, because I think that let's go for a TFC, which is most relevant. So when they're arriving at the border and they're interfacing with ICE, prior to that, Cayuga Centers has no involvement in that process. It's once they're deemed as a UC minor and they don't have their parent present, or sometimes a parent is present, but that parent might have some legal or open immigration case where there is a separation. And then they are transferred to ORR. ORR then sends them to us. We have a transport team, and if you've seen the buses, there are buses that we own, and our transport team exclusively goes to the airport to pick up youth. In terms of it being in the middle of the night, I think that might be a misrepresentation, but as we know, we have a large international airport. We have 2 airports here. There are flights around the clock. So if that flight happened in the middle of the night, it probably was because that was the only flight we can get 55 youth. But prior to that, we are not involved in any separation of child to parent or child to guardian. So when they're arriving in our care, they go through our intake program where in the case of COVID-19, they're tested for COVID-19. And then we have a team that does rapid testing. And then once they are cleared, they're placed in their home, in a home with a foster family. We do have foster families that are deemed quarantine homes for when our youth do test positive. But to reiterate, they are always placed in a home. They are not, we have no detainment centers here in New York City or anywhere for that matter.
Thank you for clarifying. Apologies, Marlene, I saw you and then you went off screen. I saw that your hand was raised.
Oh, it's fine. It's completely fine. Thanks for recognizing me, Nye. Jasmine, so I'm a former foster care worker. I completely understand what you're going through. I completely understand achieving permanency. It's difficult to achieve permanency through the courts and through working with the foster care agency and the Administration for Children's Services, that entire pipeline, before a child ends up in a home, right? So my question to you is, I know how foster care works, right? The intricacies of it, because I was a former employee. Minus immigration, I've also had to transport children interstate. But I cannot imagine it's difficult doing it domestically. I cannot imagine doing it internationally, when you have to deal with international transport. However, my question to you is, for the long-term transitional foster care, I don't think I really understand what that means. I understand what that means domestically, right here in New York State child welfare laws. I completely understand that. But if you could just reiterate what that means, so we can understand what is happening with these children long-term. Because long-term, right? I know, you know, it could be 3 years, right? Before a child is deemed permanent. And like, right, so New York State laws, you have kinship, adoption, just name it, before permanency is achieved. So how long are you guys housing these children that may age out of this system? How long? That's what I'm concerned about.
So I don't have a specific number on how long. In full transparency, with our relation to our UC program, it's very different than our ACS program. ACS,
Right.
It's easily Googleable information. You can pick up the phone and ask. ORR is a little bit different, related to the sensitivity of this case. So I don't have numbers on that, but the LTFC program was designed with the idea that for TFC, when you're looking for a sponsor, there's a variety of categories. Obviously, number one is a family member or very close of kin, and it ranges going down. Category 4 means they were not able to find a viable sponsor. Once that is deemed a category 4, then it goes to ORR for review. So ORR determines the eligibility for the long-term program. We are not involved in that. From there, and I pulled this slide up so you can kind of see, it looks very similar, but the last few dots are a bit different. So ORR determines the eligibility there, and that means a case planner has essentially compiled all that information. And then it's assessed whether they should stay in New York State in a foster care home until they await their immigration status. So that's why I mentioned that the youth tend to be a bit older in this program, and they're teenagers. And so they're entered in the education school systems here in New York City. So they join the Department of Education schooling with the idea that they're awaiting, whether it's a couple of months or, like you said, years on their immigration status. But the idea is that they're here before they age out, and it's to provide services, so to support their immigration case, or them to find additional resources, essentially to buy time before they age out of this type of program, which offers a great deal of protections and resources and education for these youth. I hope that
Right. Yes, you did. If I may ask a follow-up question, Nye?
Yes, you may.
So home finding, right? So we all know that that's the foster parents. That's the department that deals with the foster parents, right?
Yeah.
So when these children are identified, are they identified as being in imminent danger? Is there a safety risk to their lives, or they're just awaiting immigration? And so now you have to figure out ways to place them in that permanency, right? So just regular ACS, all cases go to family court with the return to parent. But right now there may not be that automatic tag to that case because it's this type of sensitivity. So how are the homes located? I know homes are found, but how is a child, I should say, placed?
Got it.
Is it just the language that places them? That's it?
So we obviously, the language is a major priority, understanding just, the cultural circumstances, but also we have a training. So I did have to skip through a couple of slides, but I just to highlight our training department. So outside of home finding that manages the foster care, our foster parents and offers them support, we have a training department that actually trains foster care programs, and their trainings are relevant to ORR's requirement as well as New York State's requirement. So sometimes you'll see some overlaps in our foster parents for our long-term and our ACS, and so if they're an ACS foster parent and they become a UC foster parent, they just go through additional training. But we do have a separate department that is not just placing them because they're Spanish speaking, but is obviously doing, if you know, the whole background checks, actively vetting them, and then also giving them the trainings to provide a safe and loving home.
Okay, that did answer my question. Thank you, Jasmine. Thank you, Nye.
Oh, thank you. I thought that was really helpful. So I see some other hands raised, and I'm not sure that I'm calling them in the right order. So Marlene, I see Jennifer's hand raised. Is there anybody else's hand that you see raised? I saw Noel, but I thought it might have been from earlier, so I don't want to skip over him.
I see Jennifer's hands raised
Okay.
right now. That's it.
Jennifer, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you. I'm sorry if I missed this, but I know you've said you're able to host between 0 and 900 beds that you have for the youth. And I understand that you're not able to tell the exact number. There is quite a difference between like 0 and 500 and 900. So is there any agency or way we can find out, I guess not an exact number, but just the magnitude? I think having an additional 900 youth in our community is a lot, and something I think we would all like to be able to, you know, have the resources to help the families that are hosting them and just know about that compared to if it's 5 youth or 500. So is there any way we can get like an approximate number, or know just within a year how many youth we're seeing?
Yeah, Jennifer, unfortunately, no. Due to the privacy, I can't release a specific number, but I did mention that 0 to 900 beds is the capacity we have at any given time. And our foster parent network is not only in the CB11 area, it spans across the New York City 5 boroughs, as well as Yonkers. And ultimately, that's where I come in. And so I've been since December just attending community boards, and anything that I find that could be a resource to our foster parents, I've created an internal foster parent resource page. And so I'm here with you guys till like 10, taking notes and sharing that with our foster parents, because anything can help, you know. But I am open to any ideas on how we can further support our foster parents. And so I'll include my information in the chat. And if you have any ideas, I'm completely open to it.
So I don't see any other hands raised. I want to thank you, Jasmine, for accepting our invitation to come. As you can see, we're very passionate about this particular topic, and are happy that, you know, there has been an allocation for staffing for you to now build this bridge with the community and to keep lines of communication open. So I'm also going to invite you to come back in the fall and give us an update. I think information, and again, we'd have to figure out the best way to do this, that we'd be interested in is how many families might be active, or how many of your beds are in our district, because I know you keep saying 900. And so whatever kind of protocols you may need to have to go through to double check that data and get to a point where we can share it with us would be greatly appreciated. And, you know, I don't know if they're allowed, and again, we can talk about this offline, to find out how many of those children are coming from the border program. And if that number is increasing or decreasing, I think is something that, you know, we're going to be interested in keeping an eye on. Again, as we see that your offices are continuing to expand in our neighborhood, that means that there's more services, that means that there's more need, and we want to keep an eye on this. So I thank you for that. And we can continue to talk as to what might, you know, be available to share or not as we go forward for the fall. So I'm going to go ahead and close out this section. I thank you, Jasmine, for this, presentation. If you could email the presentation to us, we always keep a copy of our offices of the presentations. If you haven't done so already, that'll also give our members a chance to kind of go through it more fully and see if there's any follow-up questions that we may have. I'm going to go ahead and move forward to the next section and ask the committee members, is there any old business that we need to address? And if you could do so by raise of hand. Seeing none, I'm going to move forward to any new business. I'm seeing none. I'm going to then move forward to the next slide and call for an adjournment. So similar to our calling the meeting to order, we are now working in reverse. And only asking if there are any objections to us adjourning, because I know that it is the summer. I also believe, is this our last meeting, Marlene, for this committee, or are we coming back in July? This is our last. So I just want to say I started as the chair of Health and Human Services in the fall. It was a new role for me. I want to thank each and every one of you for your faith, for your support, for your friendship, for being amazing colleagues on this journey. I believe that Angel sent out today a request for everyone to see new appointments. I did put Human Services as my #1. We will see what happens as our leadership makes their assignments for the fall. I will continue to participate in our July meeting for executive leadership. If you need anything from me, please, committee members, community members that are on, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm always here for each and every one of you and for our community. I thank all of our committee members for their amazing work. We did a bunch of stuff this cycle, even with the pandemic. And I want to thank Marlene and Xavier, as always, for their amazing support and wisdom and guidance. So thank you to all of our speakers and the presenters, and to our community members. Enjoy your summer. Please stay safe. I want to see all your beautiful faces, either back on Zoom or in person in the fall. I'm going to adjourn the meeting unless there's any objections. Are there any objections? I'm sorry, was someone speaking that I didn't call on? I'm so sorry. I heard something, but I wasn't processing.
I'm just saying bye and saying thank you.
Oh, bye, everybody. So I'm assuming no objections. Do we need to do another closing roll call, Marlene? I know I saw Pastor Scott joined us, but otherwise I didn't know if we needed to do another roll call to adjourn. Marlene? Do we need to do another roll call to adjourn?
It was supposed to happen after new business, but you can roll call it if you would like now. I think
So
Lucinda has
Marlene-
a hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry, who has their hand up?
Never mind. She put it down.
Okay, Marlene, I'm so sorry. I'm going to ask you to do the roll call so that we can move forward adjournment.
All right. Eva Chan,
Present.
Wendy Ferreira, sorry. Osendi Garcia.
Present.
Thank you. Patricia Martin. Thanks. Jennifer Meyer,
Present.
Arturo Perez,
Present.
Xavier Santiago,
Present.
Isaac Scott. Isaac Scott. Robin Strachan.
Yes, and thank you all.
I think the volume went out.
Everybody be good.
Sorry, my volume went out.
And Nye Whitaker.
I am present and calling for us to adjourn. Have a wonderful summer. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate it.
Well.
Thank you, Marlene, for keeping us in our protocol order.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Marlene.
everybody.
You're welcome. Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Bye, Marlene.
Bye, Robin.